First, I'd like to make this disclaimer. In Matthew 5:17, Jesus explicitly said he did not come to abolish the law and the prophets, not just the law and the prophets wholesale. I believe Jesus. He did not leave us lawless Christians. He came to fulfill, he goes on to say. That word fulfill obviously is open to a lot of debate, but it certainly does not mean keep. So Jesus did not say, I came to keep the laws. God's law is eternal, certainly. But the question here is which law? And by the way, which covenant? Sean keeps saying that I'm using this law of Moses phrase. Sean said, law of Moses is a misnomer, if I may quote you. That's a straw man argument. No one says Moses created the law without God's knowledge. Furthermore, throughout the Bible, the law of Moses is a biblical phrase. 20 or maybe more times, Jesus himself in John 7:19, has not Moses given you the law? Is Jesus there being detrimental to God's eternal law? So this consistent habit of my opponent seeming to label us as if we're diminishing God's law because we call it law of Moses, it's really frustrating to hear. John said from Genesis to Revelation, it's the old covenant. What? I've never heard that before. The whole of the Bible, Old and New Testament, is an old covenant system. Well, what about Jeremiah? What he says in Jeremiah 31 to 33. What about Hebrews? The whole really book of Hebrews, but especially Hebrews chapter 8, where it refers to the first, that is the old covenant, and the the last covenant, the new covenant. Jesus himself at the last communion or Passover meal, Jesus himself says, this is my blood of the new covenant. Christian communion is based on the words of the Messiah at his last Passover meal. Paul in 1 Corinthians 11:25, this cup is the new covenant, my blood. Do this whenever you drink it. We must be careful with the word forever in the Bible. So in Hebrew, it's olam. Greek is eon, which literally means an age. It can be a period of time. It does not always connote eternality, as if there's no ending to it. Are we to say that the commandment, which is olam, eternal, in Leviticus 24, of putting oil in your lamps, taking out the showbread, olam, forever? Leviticus 24, verses 1 to 8. Your slaves are forever in Exodus 21:6, olam. The Aaronic priesthood is forever, Exodus chapter 29. The priesthood was changed, according to the writer of Hebrews. Jesus, by the way, the Messiah, is not the high priest according to the law of Moses. So according to my opponent, Jesus himself would be disqualified because apparently he believes he's under the old covenant, he's under the old law. The law of Moses, a biblical phrase, look it up. Touching the dead is forever. Don't touch the dead. And olam commandment, Numbers chapter 19. My opponent said that the yoke in Acts 15, and Paul also talks about the yoke of slavery, by the way, in the book of Galatians, equals the party of circumcision. Just read what Acts 15 says. Nowhere there can you connect this word of yoke and what our ancestors, says James and the elders, they could not bear. They couldn't bear the party of circumcision? They're obviously talking about circumcision, which is a requirement to obey the law of Moses, a biblical phrase.